How far my people? Welcome back to No Gree Entertainment. I'm your host, Drew. I'm here with my dog.
What's going on with y'all, man? How are
How
you, bro?
I'm good, I'm good. Yourself?
I'm chilling, bro.
How's the week been?
We've been pretty solid, just been trying to get through school, work
Mm,
and all that.
yeah. Work?
Yeah,
What you what you
like a,
uh, uh, j-
that
are we
word.
allowed to say that word on the
I don't
podcast?
know. We might get censored if we
Yeah, I
say
feel
that
like
word.
we just got to be safe and just keep it,
hmm
politically correct. I
Yeah,
feel like that's a big part of, of YouTube, and nowadays you can't say anything like it's a lot of censoring going on.
hmm
So, I'll just kind of give you a hint. It's a three-letter word. It's where you make money.
yeah.
It's kind of inappropriate and you know reprehensible to talk about, but it's something we have to
It's
do.
it's kind of making me sick that you're even still talking about it. But I
Yeah,
mean,
I know, bro. But I feel like as a grown man, you kind of got to get through that. Kind of gotta. I feel like you just lack vindication. Like,
benediction,
yeah,
big word reacts.
yeah.
Okay,
Is that
okay.
is that even a word? Vindication,
Benediction. I don't know.
vindictiveness.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. Anyways, bro. I mean, I feel like a lot's been going on. Not even with that word, but I feel like in general in the African diaspora, that stretch between November and I feel like February to April, I feel like that's like where the most African functions happen. Um, Speaking of that, it kind of got me to thinking. When I was young, I used to get beat a lot, um, mostly from functions, African functions. I would get beat a lot, and I think this was because I like to see myself as an efficient person. Instead of going around and greeting each elder, each uncle, and each aunt, I would just look at them and just sit down and eat, snack on my meat pie and my jollof and my buns. So I kind of want to get your thoughts on it, your opinion on this. Do you think not greeting each elder at a function is disrespect, or you think that's just like efficiency?
I honestly feel like efficiency is really for corporate workers. When you're in the midst of a bunch of African uncles and aunties, you know, you're pretty much a peasant to them. So I feel like greeting is something that you can't really get away with not doing. You know what I mean? I feel like if you try that general greeting nonsense and say hi, aunties and uncles, I feel like you're really just essentially spitting in their face. To be honest with you, and if you really think about it, like it does seem like a lot of work to go and they'll ballet to 40, 50 different aunties and uncles, but you're really just securing your future inheritance if you're being honest.
Mm,
Like if you don't do that, you're gonna be known as the boy who didn't greet
mm,
until your wedding day. And I feel like, you know, is not doing that 40 to 50 ballets and, touching your toes, rolling on the floor, all that. Um, is not doing that worth the scolding and the dirty looks you're gonna get from all those aunties and uncles. I don't really think it is. So
I I kind of disagree with that, but I can see where you're coming from. I feel like we said earlier, we made the connection between that. We spent a lot of time in our lifetime doing dobale, doing greeting each parent, each uncle and auntie. I feel like we could be using that time, like I said, to increase our knowledge, to read more books. But I mean, I can kind of understand where you're coming from. I think it does kind of signify, this is a responsible boy, but at the same time, it just hinders your growth as a human being. That's how I see it.
yeah, I mean, I thought it was economically inefficient as well. But when you, like I said, when you think about it, you're pretty much securing your inheritance. Like I said,
Mm,
that 40 to 50 ballots out of 10 to 15 of those is going to turn into $200 birthday money checks.
mm,
No, I'm
that's
not. I'm not saying just greet your elders just
yeah,
just for the money, but
yeah,
if you think about it, it's way more economically efficient. Like you are saving your time from not greeting them. Like you're saving all that breath and energy
yeah,
to read Atomic Habits and whatnot. But
yeah,
I feel like it's smarter to get that money. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So what I'm hearing is you're seeing this as more of an investment in your future.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
see, you understand life. I think that's a very mature and appropriate mindset to have. So going forward, I think I'll just not only will I greet them, I'll spend 5 to 10 minutes telling them how amazing they are, telling them sweet nothings in their ear. I think that's very appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
You're a
Yeah.
money minded person. I like that.
Yeah, tell that auntie that doesn't know how to make jollof. Like, auntie, this jollof is the best I've ever had.
Mm,
Like, no Drake.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And keep just keep doing what you got to do.
yeah,
So seems like nowadays everybody has like everybody's family has like a mansion at home and whatnot. And most people, they think having a mansion back home makes them, the top dog, the big G, the big all guy. You know what I'm saying? So kind of just wanted to get your like take a mansion in the village, but you still pay rent here in the States. Like, is that wealth or you just like faking it until you make it?
I think it's you're just economically confused. If you're in the village and you have 3 4 story mansion, big compound, marble floors, uh, chandelier in your house, but you come to Arlington, Texas, and you're driving Okada, you're working at McDonald's in Arlington, Texas. I feel like that's just economically confused. I feel like once you start getting to that territory, I feel like you just become a failure in life. Whoever does that and kind of flexes what they have going on back home, I feel like that's just I get a lot of secondhand embarrassment from that because it's like you can't keep it consistent between countries.
Yeah, it's just like fake behavior to me.
Mm.
Like, you have a mansion in Nigeria that you stay in for, you know, maybe a week or two in December. And then the other 358 days of the year, you're back home arguing with your landlord, fighting for your life to keep your water on.
Yeah,
It doesn't make sense. Like in Nigeria, you move like, top G, but, back home in Arlington, you're like, you mop to make a living at Tizbuka, closing shifts. So I feel like it's definitely not economically efficient at all. I feel like you should probably just do a deep dive into your finances.
mm.
Check yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
you're a mopper for Tizbuka, like I said, but you're moving like you're a prince in Nigeria.
Mm.
Like it just doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't make sense at all. I fully agree with that. I think you just need to really look at yourself as a person, look at your financial life, especially if you're a man. You keep it consistent across continents. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like does it make sense to have a mansion that you only use like 1 week out the year? Like it doesn't make sense. Like
No.
the 358 days, like I said, your mansion's really just the home to the village goats and spirits
Yeah.
and whatnot. So
Yeah.
it doesn't really make sense to me at all.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. So today I graduated. You might be
Oh,
asking.
congrats.
Thank you. You might be asking. It's February. Andrew, how'd you graduate? Well, today my dad he called me sir for the first time. Yeah, he called me sir.
Mm.
And just to give a bit of context, I'm 6 foot. My dad, he's about 5'8", and so I feel like that discrepancy in height, it kind of calls for a higher level of respect. You're 6 foot as well, so I think you can kind of attest to this. But I kind of want to just get your input on something. You know, should respect be based on when you were born or on physics? Like if you're taller than your father, should he call you sir, or like what do you think? Because I mean, if my son was taller than me, I would address him with sir. What do you think?
It should be based on height. Like, why is this even a question? If I'm 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", and my dad's 5'2", 5'3", why am I addressing you to sir? Like at that point, you should be addressing me as sir.
Mm.
Like 5'2", like that's how tall I was in the 6th grade. You know what I mean? So I definitely feel like you should be the one grabbing the remote for me. You should be the one making my food, laying my bed. You know what I mean? Like once I start towering over you, like you're a little boy to me at that
Mm.
point.
Yeah,
So I mean, why would I address you? I don't know. I just feel like you should be addressing me as sir if I'm the one that's taller than you.
absolutely. I also should tower over you. Financially. You should be fetching my food. You should be bringing me my fufu and egusi. I should come home from work, and you should be, saying, "Hey, son, what would you like to eat for dinner tonight?" And I feel like that's the best way to go about it. And I think Nigerian culture we get that wrong a lot.
Hey
I,
son, you
yeah,
mean hey sir?
yeah. Hey, sir.
Yeah,
Hey,
hey
sir.
sir.
Hey, sir. That's sorry for that. Excuse me. I feel like my dad should be coming home and saying, "Hey, sir, what would you like to eat for dinner tonight?" And yeah, I think that's the way to go. I think that's we like I was saying, in Nigerian culture we get that wrong. Traditional we got that completely wrong, and I think from this generation forward, we need to make that switch
Yeah, definitely. Just gonna be the new wave for sure.
for sure.
So like obviously we've talked about this before. Spraying money.
Mm.
It's a cultural thing and
They didn't
whatnot.
like that one.
Yeah, they didn't. I still stand on. I
Oh,
don't think it's really
of course. I'm
appropriate.
not gonna go back on my word.
Yeah,
That's-
never.
No,
Like, defeats the whole purpose of being a man.
absolutely.
But like that leads me to my next point. So spraying money. So if I were to spray money, right,
Yeah.
and I went to go back and pick it up after I sprayed the money, is that theft or is that just me being financially responsible?
Mm. I don't see it as any of those. First of all, you're pulling up to a party to spray another man with money. We've already covered that, but you spray another. Think about the optics. You're spraying another man with money, and on top of that, you have the audacity to embarrass yourself even more by you'll sneak and slide those ones back under your foot. Step on it and just be stationary, dancing, and spraying more money. As that money is falling, you're scooping with your foot. So I think that's just. I get embarrassed when I see people doing that because it's like it's a short term loan investment. Like it doesn't make sense. You're not committing to anything as a man. Like I feel like that signals to the couple or whoever is dancing at that wedding, like, hey, like I wish you a happy marriage, but I want to eat tomorrow. And I feel like as an odogu, I shouldn't be doing that as a grown man. So it just gives me the highest form of second embarrassment.
Yeah, like if you're gonna spray that money and pick it back up, it just gives me peasant vibes.
Mm,
Like you're showing that you can't, give that money.
yeah,
Like I feel like you picking it up just shows like weakness. Like, oh, I need this money. Like
yeah,
like you said, I need to eat tomorrow.
absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a real dogu, a real man is gonna have his money in his, high yield savings waiting for him
Mm,
back at home.
mm,
So this little money that he's spraying, like, doesn't really mean nothing.
no,
I feel like if you do try to pick the money back up with your foot, like you can't really get mad when, you get your to-go plate and open it when you get home and see a note that says, thank you for coming with no jollof, no
Yeah.
meat pie, no nothing.
yeah,
You're really just getting the same return on investment that you put in by taking that money back. So
I like how you pointed out what I said about sliding that money under your foot. Like you're doing JJ Okocha with the ones. And I think that's extremely embarrassing. You're doing around the world's rainbow flicks. It's like, what are you doing, bro? Just like, it's just embarrassing to me, bro. I just find it extremely embarrassing. Like going to pitch, bro, doesn't make sense.
yeah, not at all.
Speaking of money, bro, it's been hard to keep it in this 2026, bro.
Yeah, for sure.
A couple of days ago, I had a trouble with my Tesla. So I went on Facebook Marketplace just looking for a few mechanics. Found a Nigerian guy. So obviously supporting another Nigerian in the diaspora. I reached out to him, and I pull up to his shop. I show him what was wrong with my car, and he charges me 3,000. He said there's something wrong with the engine. So he said come back in 3 hours. So I came back 3 hours later, and lo and behold, I see he had removed my engine and he put a Tiger generator in my front. So I asked him, Chief, why is there a Tiger generator in a ceiling fan in my front? Like, why is there a pull to start in my front? And he looks me dead in the eyes. He wipes his hands. Puts his rag on his shoulder, and he says, "My brother, electricity is electricity. It is well."
Mm.
So that just leads me to this question. Mind you, by the way, when I was driving home, it exploded. So like, it is well? Is that like a declaration of faith, or is that like, just surrender? Like, what do you think?
Definitely surrender. Like if somebody essentially ruins your life and then says it is well,
Yeah.
they're really just telling you like I did that. Like I missed with you. I messed up your life and there's really nothing you could do about it.
Mm.
Like they use it as well as a period basically. Like notice like you probably know someone that says it is well after like every sentence.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to basically make it seem like, they have the final say, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I feel like it's not a spiritual declaration at all, to be honest. Like, I feel like honestly, us Nigerians, we say it too much. Like, if it is well was a currency or something,
Be rich.
bro, we'd be rich. We'd
Come
be leading the nations with how many times we say it. So I honestly feel like, you know, if you're gonna use it as well, use it in a positive context. Like, you know, LeBron just dropped 50. It is
It is
well.
well.
It is well.
Messi just scored a banger.
It
It
is
is well.
well.
You know,
Like you shouldn't be saying is it well when you pretty much just ruined my life, ruined my day.
mm,
Say it is well. Like what? You trying to
like
like butter up the situation?
yeah, it's whispering sweet nothings in my ear.
Literally,
Yeah,
like giving me false hope.
exactly. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I'm glad you were on the same page. I liked your breakdown of it. I fully agree with your sentiment. I think it's an appropriate way of looking at the situation.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Last week, it was my brother, my big brother John's birthday. You know, he turned 24, and you know, he just recently graduated college not too long ago, got his master's degree and whatnot. Shout out to him.
Mm,
And you know, clock strikes 12. You know, I get up and get ready to go. You know, give him his 24 licks. You know, 24 punches
of
and
course,
whatnot, because you know, it's just standard. You know what I'm
absolutely.
saying?
Yeah.
So as I'm getting up to go, you know, I leave my room, and from the noise that I'm hearing, I can see that my parents already got to him before I did. So, you know, I'm just as I'm about to go open the door, I'm hearing like just powerful tongues and just very loud prayer, like I pray for your future wife, I pray for your future children, I pray for da 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 da. I'm like, okay, okay, they praying for him and whatnot. And then I'm listening more and more, and I'm like, yo, like the guy just turned 24, like I said, you know, why aren't you praying that he, you know, finds new job opportunities, just the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, you know, the big trifecta
Mm.
that they always pray for. So I didn't hear any of that. I didn't even hear happy birthday. It was really just your future wife this, your future wife that. And I'm just like, yo. So, you know, they leave the room or whatever, still didn't hear happy birthday or nothing. You know, I go to him, you know, give him his licks and whatnot. And, you know, I talk to him about it. I'm like, you know, why does mom and dad, like, ever since you turned like 21, mom and dad have just been, you know, it's really just been wife, kid, wife, kid, and never happy birthday.
Mm.
So I just wanted to get your input on that. Like, why do African parents spend, you know, like 40 minutes of the happy birthday prayer praying about, you know, wife and kids, and only 2 minutes saying happy birthday, if they even say that?
Yeah. It's because they just look at it as a deadline update. You're blowing your candles. When that smoke rises, they're just seeing a vision of your grandchild, a vision of your wife. So I feel like they're just professors. They're just waiting on you to submit your assignment. At the right deadline. And I just feel like we need to really correct that in African and Nigerian culture specifically. I just see it as inappropriate. I see it as you're rushing a grown man to do what he has to do. Just relax. I feel like yeah. I think they get that wrong. And I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I feel like with how hard they were praying, they were pretty much just giving him like a sign
Yeah,
or like a deadline, like you said.
yeah,
You know, like it was on some like if you don't have a kid or a wife, if you don't marry someone within the next year, we're gonna kick you out. We're gonna, you know what I'm
oh,
saying?
so it's more of a threat,
Yeah, I feel like it was more of a threat
mm,
than it was like an actual prayer. You
like
know
a
what I'm saying?
blessing. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't a blessing. It was just like
hmm
yeah. I see what you're saying.
Like mind you, this guy just graduated school. You know,
Hmm.
he's looking. I don't think dating anyone's really on his mind. Like he's trying to get to the money,
Right.
touch that paper.
Yeah.
And you know they're praying about wife, kid. Like he doesn't even have a girlfriend, so I don't really know where this wife, kid prayer and
Yeah.
stuff like that came from.
Yeah.
Like I do see where they're coming from in a way, you know, but like you know if that's
Same time,
all
like
you're praying about,
absolutely, just like
you know,
slow down. Like I'm 23
like
years old.
like slow down, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, and that's like literally the only thing I heard the whole prayer, like
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Just two words. Slow down. No no Bobby Valentino. You know.
Mm.
The other week, I think it was like a week or two ago, my dad, he likes to go to Southwest Market and get their Agege bread. So he brought, 2 loaves of Agege bread. And I was up doing my homework around 2 or 3 a.m. And I remember him saying, this bread is for the visitors. Don't touch this bread. But I felt like the ancestors, they were like calling my spirit to, go get a handful of Agege bread and snack on it. So I had to do some prayer and fasting that night. I started my fasting journey because I just felt like it was a test of my spiritual strength. So my question is like, do you think if your father buys Agege bread for the visitors, do you think like that's a if you go eat it, is that a death sentence, or like is that like a test of your spiritual strength?
That's a really good question. I feel like it's really both,
Mm.
but it's more of a death sentence if you touch that bread.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're essentially sealing your fate if you
Yeah.
touch that bread. It's like Eve touching the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden.
Mm.
Except this time she's not face to face with an angry African mother with a hot spatula ready to hit you upside the head. You know what I mean? Like it's definitely like you touching that bread is like it's like a death sentence, bro.
Yeah.
Like when them guests come and see you like outside pleading for your life because your mom kicked you out to think about what you did, you know, that's when you have to really think about like, was what I did really worth it? Like should I really have even done that? You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? So definitely a test and it's in a way as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I feel like at the end of the day, you always have to answer to God about your sins. So if that bread was really worth it, by all means grab it. But I feel like otherwise, you're just asking for a death wish, and you're also asking for God to punish you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, bro, I actually have a funny story to tell you, and this like gonna tie into a question I have for you later on. But so it was like this Monday actually, running late for school and whatnot, and I lost my keys, didn't know where I put them. I'm running through the house trying to figure out where I left them, checking my pants, my laundry, all that.
Mm.
I'm just panicking. Like I missed my first class. I missed my lab and all that,
I'm gonna stop you there. That just sounds like a lack of vindication and a lack of discipline as a
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it's definitely my fault.
Yeah, I gotta
I
give you.
take full responsibility.
Yeah.
It's not even appropriate for me to be losing stuff at the end of the day as a grown man. But it leads me to my next point. So I'm just like I said, I was going through all my belongings trying to find my keys, and I essentially just waved the white flag. I'm like, and I call my mom. She works from home, so I know she was definitely mad with me that day because I disturbed her,
Yeah.
and with the work she had going on.
Exactly.
So I tell her my situation, and she gives me the look, the angry African mom look. You know the look, and she tells me the famous sentence that every African mother says when it comes to finding missing belongings. If I enter that room and find that key, what should I do to you? That sentence
That just
is
brought me trauma right there.
it's enough to give you chills. Like
Yeah.
it's enough to tremble you for real, and that's exactly what it did.
Mm.
But I was super confident because, like I said, I was looking for 3 hours, so it was no way she was gonna come
Yeah.
in the living room and find my keys.
Yeah. Of course not. Right.
And of course
Yeah.
not. That's what I thought. So like, as she's walking out the office, it's like spiritual, like Bluetooth just connected in her mind, and like she hit one of these, like, and I'm like, what the heck, and I'm like, what the heck she just do? So next thing you know, she walks to the couch. Like this was like straight out of a movie scene, bro. Like it was one of the craziest things I ever saw. She walks straight to the couch, does this to the couch, and my keys just appear in her hands. And then she hits my head like that, and then walks back to her office and it's like, foolish boy. And I'm just standing there in awe because it's like, how did she do that? So I just wanted to get your input, like is it even possible for like an African mother to find something that I've been looking for 3+ hours in 2 seconds? Does she have some type of like spiritual Bluetooth connection in her mind or something? Like,
I think you hit on the answer already. It's not scientifically possible, but spiritually, with an African mother and God, anything is possible. I feel like when she, hit that and really, tapped in with Chineke, it kind of just brings all of the, it sends a signal to all of those items, and it just gives them a soul, and it tells them, hey, manifest yourself, reveal yourself in the physical realm. So I feel like your keys, they kind of just reappeared on them on its own, because when they hear the words, if I come in there and find that room or find that key, those keys or that whatever it is, if they hear those words, I feel like the key is just trying to save its own life. Um, it doesn't want to be casted and binded by the curses of an African mother, so it's really just not trying to save its own destiny. So I think it's not your fault. I know you're not going to be looking for your keys for 3 hours and have no luck. I mean, come on, bro. So I think you're not in the fault in the wrong at all. But I just think that you just don't have the spiritual anointing of the finder. Chineke has to give that to you. So I think you're not in the wrong, bro. Just don't worry about it. Definitely African mothers just have that anointing for sure.
How do you think they get that anointing? I feel like, do you think they're born with it? I feel like it's something that they wake up with one day.
I feel like when they have you, God just he kind of just does a spiritual surgery and just installs that kind of knowledge in them, that everlasting knowledge to be able to find all of your belongings in a split second. So she kind of pulled in the chair and just reached out for you. That's not normal, bro.
Yeah, it's not.
You gotta be gifted by God.
For sure.
Yeah. Today even he called me and I kind of delayed the podcast a bit. He said, hey, I'm here at the studio. And I said, hey, yeah, I'm coming. I'm on the way. I'm already like 2 minutes down the corner. Did you take my word for that? Like, if a Nigerian tells you, hey, I'm around the corner, do you take that literally, or do you think that's just kind of they're speaking metaphorically? Or like, what do you think?
You said Nigerian, right?
Yeah.
Then immediately add another hour to that. If they say, I'm around the corner, I'll be there in 10, 15 minutes, they're really going to be there the next hour and 15 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like they tell you, oh, just give me an hour or two, I'll be there. You might as well just start packing for your next vacation because they're not going to be there in an hour or two. They're going to be there in a week or two.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You kind of just got to put yourself first in that situation. And honestly, I have a method where like I like to lie and say, I'm here. Whole time I'm pulling the same thing that they're doing. I'm still in my house, in my bed. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying I'm here the whole time. I'm cozy, watching a movie in my sheets. So
yeah,
I feel like you just gotta, tell them that you're there. Whole time you're not really there for real, and then make your way when they make their way, so that you meet them. Yeah, so that you meet them there.
Absolutely. I like that method a lot. I'll just be in the bed, watching Nollywood while they're stressing about me, worried that they're not there on time, that I'm gonna scold them. Bro, I'm doing the same thing as you. I feel like if it's two Nigerians, two negatives make a positive. So I feel like that method, you're really smart for that. And I think also I like to listen to for the kettle in the background. If I hear a boiling kettle in the background, I'm like, all right, this guy's pulling the same thing as I am. That's really my method too. So I think adding those both methods together, I think you can't go wrong as Nigerian. So, or when dealing with the Nigerian. So yeah, definitely like that.
Definitely. Like, he's on the phone telling you, yo, bro, like, I'm going to be there in 15 minutes. All the time he's, eating his fufu and that goosey, while watching, Neymar highlights, on YouTube. So kind of just got to know what you're dealing with.
Know what you're dealing with. They're not even a who. Nigerians, they give headache. They give so much headaches, bro. I'm telling you, like, I don't really classify them as human beings, anymore. I just think they're like what's, they're not who's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Guys, we covered a lot. The people have been asking. Oh shoot, we got another question, bro. If you're on TikTok, yeah. He was asking like, about how do Nigerian American kids or Nigerians in the diaspora, how do they perform so well in school? I also wanted to kind of ask that, get your input. Like, do you think it's like being afraid of your mother at home, or do you think it's just are we born with that natural drive to excel in our academic careers?
It's definitely based off fear.
Yeah,
for sure. Like, you can't really, like, think about it. You think we were just born this way?
Yeah.
You think we were born like young Sheldon and we're smart out the womb? No. Constant nights of being up past 12, you know, until we got the answer right, get into, you know, that belt and whatnot.
Khan Academy,
It builds,
Magnesium.
yep, Khan
Yep.
Academy, I
IXL.
excel,
Whoo, man.
IXL,
IXL.
man, I could keep going on.
I'm telling you.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
like even the little, like, you know, homeworks that they give us, you think that's it? No,
Nah.
we're going to, you know, math centers.
Yeah.
You know, if you know, you know about Kumon Math Center.
Yeah, Kumon, a
You're
whole
gonna
that man.
you're gonna get sent there.
Yeah.
You know, like all that stuff just builds character. Like we're not just born smart. You know,
Not
like,
at all, bro.
I recall so many nights, like, you know, spelling bees, they're optional.
Bees,
like
yeah.
they're not something that you need to do. Bro, the amount of times, like, if my dad found out there was a spelling bee, I'm doing it. Like,
Absolutely.
and if I don't win,
forget it. Yeah.
forget it. Like, it's nothing. There's no way out of that
Yeah.
beating. So
That's a beautiful breakdown. I really can't even add more to that. I would just say, you know, those constant nights of, "Nah, Mecca, did I send you to school to be, you know, the last in your class, or to be the worst ranked in your class?" I feel like those words, they kind of, you know, instill a kind of certain motivation, a certain drive for you to overachieve in whatever you're doing. So I don't think it's a natural thing. Obviously, like you said, I think it just comes with, you know, constant beatings and reproaches, and
yeah, like B, like getting a B, that doesn't stand for, you know, the grade. B stands for beating.
yeah,
That's what I always told myself. B stands for beating. So if I saw a B on my report card, I know I'm gonna get a B.
yeah,
So that really is what motivated me to, you know, get them straight A's for
yeah,
sure.
for sure. A stands for like average, like especially if you're A minus, like where are the remaining, you know, 3 points, where are the remaining 7 points, you know, average minus. I feel like, you know those grades, they kind of symbolize something to African parents. So
Yeah, like I went to a private school and they didn't do like the number system. It was just A minus A, B plus C. So we didn't really see what we got. It was just A, B, whatever.
yeah,
You know, I came home with straight A's, but I had a couple A minuses in there. And you would think, you know, I'm proud of myself,
yeah,
fifth grade me, you know, I'm proud of myself, happy for my performances and whatnot. Give my parents my report card happily. And, you know, I vividly remember this. They're like, what is this subtraction sign behind this A?
yeah,
And I'm like, oh, it just means A minus. I got beat that day because it's like, minus, you bringing minus in this house?
yeah. You think that's
Minus
gonna
what?
fly? Yeah,
Like, it's not flying.
no,
You know, they told me, like, I just want plus, only plus.
plus, yeah.
Plus. You know what I'm saying? So,
Average plus is not even enough. A plus is not even enough for them.
A. If and then they even told me, like, there were a couple grades I had that just said A. And then they told me, like, where's the plus? Like, why is there no plus?
I didn't born you to be mediocre in this life, to be average. A for average.
Yeah, so even an A, like an A isn't enough because
No.
that's an average A. You know, you need that plus.
Yeah,
So
I mean that plus, but you need to break the scale. That's what I was told. So
yeah, for sure.
that viewer that asked that, you know, you got your answer here, bro. Without anything else, you have anything else to add, bro?
I don't got nothing else, but keep leaving comments though, like
keep leaving comments for sure.
Yeah, on what y'all want us to discuss.
Yeah, we're gonna cover a lot of things, bro. Thank y'all for watching. Stay blessed, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.
Yes, sir.